Obedience, 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 obedience. Obedience is a cornerstone of our faith in God. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Being obedient requires faith in God. Without faith, it is impossible to walk with God. I will. Obedience. Obey God.
Hey y'all, it's Shantavia
and Ashley, and this is Obedience Podcast. So we'd like to welcome you guys to the last part of our preparation series. If you haven't watched episode 3, you know the drill. Go ahead and back and listen to part 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we discussed being good stewards over our time and having time management, procrastination, help us Lord, the consequences of such, and also the results of being overwhelmed. So after overcoming the procrastination, so let's evaluate the rewards of our prepared works.
Yes. So in the last episode, we learned about the 3 men who were loaned money. So we want to remember that one of the servants got 5 bags of gold, the other got 2, and then the last man only got 1. So in this part of the episode, we're going to learn what each one of those guys did with what they were given. So I'm going to start by reading 25:19 through 21. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. So I circle in my Bible, you have been faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. And that just goes back to what we said before. Like, if the Lord sees what you do with $100 as far as giving, he's gonna automatically know what you'll do with $100,000, you know? So we see here in the story what the guy did with the gold that he was given. He was responsible, took it out and sold it and bought 5 more. So now we have 10 silver coins now. He increased his master's profit. So that led me to thinking about, us being faithful, remaining faithful to what God has given us. So I wanted to ask you guys, how have you maintained your faith during hard times?
Lots and lots of prayer and just staying on your face before God. Like doing the hard times shows that your faith is truly genuine. Like if you can go through a hard time and then go to God for strength, that says that your faith is truly genuine and that you really trust Him. And even in those times, His strength is made perfect. In our weakness, His strength is made perfect. And I have, of course, through scripture, through prayer, but I was just thinking of like even some practical things. When you get overwhelmed, I like to, take a little trip to the beach or something like that. But, every day you just can't go to the beach. Taking a walk, having like a God walk or just kind of clear your mind of things, just to take in nature. I like doing that. Talk to your therapist if you have a therapist or a loved one, or just talk to somebody and kind of vent, to relieve that stress. And just praying in faith. I know I said prayer before. And just like recently, I had to pray this prayer. And ultimately, in all of the times, I just have to pray, look, God, I don't know what the future is. I don't know, what you're doing totally. I may not understand it, but even if I don't know, or it doesn't feel like, things are going great, I trust you even in the times. So, and just completely give it to Him. So that was for me.
That goes back to that Tasha Cobbs song that we talked about in our quarantine episode. At the end of the song where she says, you won't let me down, you won't let me fall, so I give it to you. I don't know what's going on right now, but I know that it's all going to work out for my good, because you're going to make sure everything is good for me if I'm, and I don't even have to remain faithful to you. That's just how good you are. I can be out here, I don't want to say what I could be doing, but just doing whatever I want to do, and you still will be faithful,
So like for me, I feel just like what Ashley said, prayer. I feel like I had to, you have to be intentional about it and intentional about staying grounded in church, because it's easy to become consumed with whatever it is that you're doing and kind of put that on the back burner and just kind of forget, and you look around and you're like, yeah, when's the last time I've been to church? I know when I was in school, Granny would always, when I talk to her, she's like, have you been to church? You need to find your church home up there. You need to find your church home. I'm like, okay, Granny, okay. But no, it was true. And during those hard times, that's something that I always could fall back on. And I also always had to remind myself that whatever situation I was in, I wasn't there by happenstance. It was where I was supposed to be. And I always had to remind myself that whenever I'm in a difficult situation and it seemed impossible, everything still got done. So that's most of the time, anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, it's fine, because I've been here before. I've done this before, and I felt stressed, and at the end of the day, everything got done. So that's pretty much, I self-talk. I talk myself up every time, like, okay, whatever. I've done this before. I'm gonna be fine.
That's good. Well, I wanted to share another story time. But it's something that I have been wanting to share on the podcast. But y'all all know is out here, and she's snatching everybody's wigs. I want to share an experience that I had personally with COVID, and how I really had to just lean on my faith in that whole situation. So my aunt actually tested positive for, and how they say the virus, how it does, like, nobody really knows the symptoms, right? They're all over the place, and literally what she had, like, from her symptoms, it sounded like a sinus infection. So that's what we were thinking. She just has a sinus infection, it's fine, it's fine. And my little cousin actually was graduating that day, and we had planned to have a graduation party for her. And she still felt bad, and she hadn't got her results back. But in our opinion, it was a sinus infection, so everything is going to go on as planned. And so she went to the graduation. Me and my mama, we went to the graduation. We sat right there by her. At the graduation, we did have to wear masks, so she had her mask on. Her son and her daughter rode with her to the car, to graduation. After graduation, they came to my house and took pictures with my grandma. Took pictures with us, and then we proceeded to have a graduation party. And my aunt, she was still feeling bad, but she was able to still come. And at one point she was like, okay, I'm gonna go home just so I can lay down, I still don't feel good. But actually my grandma was like, I'd rather you be here than at home by yourself. And so she stayed, and she just like laid on the couch. And then probably like an hour and 30 minutes into the party, she got her results back. And when I tell you, we're guilty, we're a guilty family. We were one of those families who had the gatherings, and literally most of my immediate family was at this gathering, and she tested positive, and immediately it just, you had this experience where you kind of like, okay, everybody was here. So everybody came in contact with this virus. This is a real thing now. We knew it was real before, but it's like super real now because it's affecting all of us. And then you're worried about her because you're like, you've heard all the horror stories, and then My aunt was there. She already has a lung disease. And just thinking about, okay, what if she got it? Then, you know, my grandma was there, people over 60 not supposed to be there. It was just like so much, you know? And I really had to like lean into my faith in that moment because I was really close to having another panic attack. Y'all probably know I got anxiety. So I was real close to leaning into that panic attack, but I just had to take hold of it and just lean into my faith, you know, and without my faith, I wouldn't have been able to get to that moment because, you know, you have to wait to get tested. You have to do your 3 days after you come in contact with it, then get tested to even see if possible, you know, if possible, if you contracted the virus. And then you have to wait like your 14 days to see if you have any symptoms. And so that was just a lot of time. And doing that, it really increased my faith because that's all I could depend on. You know, nobody could say you're positive, you're okay. Nobody could tell me that within those date ranges. So all I had to depend on was my faith, you know. And I just remember to try and fight from me actually going into that panic attack, I had to just go back to my room and just pray by myself. And after that prayer, I had a peace over my body. You know, I still was worried, but I knew I wasn't going to have a panic attack or anything like that. And and I know this is just God because like they say, the virus is so easily spread. And like I said, all of my immediate family was there. And each and every single one of us tested negative for the virus once we were all able to get tested. And it's just the fact that, you know, all of us came into contact with it. You know, it really strengthened my faith because it made me actually see what God can do. You know, He covered each and every single one of us. And He also covered my aunt because she went through it, but she didn't have to go to the hospital once. You know, she had breathing issues, but they weren't as bad where she had to go and, you know, get admitted to the hospital. And so it helped me with my faith extremely and showed me, you know, when I can depend on Him at all times. And, you know, I just wanted to share that because that was a moment where I truly had to depend on my faith because I had nothing else to depend on.
And I want to add to that a little bit, but for those of you who don't know, Shay and I are first cousins. So when they got the news, you know, I didn't know, I'm out of town. So when I got the news, when she got the news, I didn't know. So I called her, you know, we FaceTime a lot. So I called and I'm just talking and I'm like, she looking like she saw a ghost. I'm like, I'm just talking and she like being weird. I was like, what's wrong with you? And so she like, nothing. And I know her, so I'm like, she lying. I don't know what happened, but she's lying. So I think we ended up getting off the phone, and I think I texted her, and then she texted me, and she told me that our aunt tested positive, and I'm like, oh, okay. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I actually want to speak to her growth, the growth in her faith, because we actually had another situation where someone close to us tested positive, and her reaction to it was night and day. Once this person got their results, they tested positive. It wasn't the same. She didn't look like she saw a ghost. Immediately, she was like, I'm fine. I'm not really worried about it. And I just wanted to speak on that because that's something that I saw the difference in between the two incidents.
Yeah, that is very true. Just because, like I said, like I saw what He can do personally. Like nobody can tell me what He can't do. Like if we're going based off of what they say, everybody there should got that should test positive. Because at one point, all of us didn't have a mask on. All of us were in contact. So it was just kind of like He covered us, you know. And at that point, like if I get it, he's gonna cover me. If I come in contact with it, He's gonna cover me. Who knows how many times I've been in contact with it, you know. So it's just kind of like I said, you just have to depend on the faith that you have because that's pretty much all you can pretty much base it on, not saying I'm gonna go out there and just like lick everything and but when you have experiences where it's out of your control, that's all you can lean on, really. So, yeah.
That is so true.
And I also wanted to share, because like when everything was going on with my aunt, it was a bunch of sleepless nights, and I know at one point it was like my 5th time waking up that night, and I was just like, God, just show me it's gonna be okay, and I went back to sleep, and then I woke up and I had like the Bible app notification on my phone, and this is literally the scripture that was on my phone when I woke up, and I screenshot it as soon as I saw it, but this was the verse. So it's Isaiah 41:13. It says, "For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you." And I just felt like that was confirmation from him just to be okay. And I remember literally, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be okay. I remember, I think we had a recording that time. I just like dug myself into the podcast, just working on it, because I was just like, that's all I can do right now. And it made everything so much better. But yeah, that's enough of.
So Matthew 23:22-23 reads, "The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, 'Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more.' The master said, 'Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I will give you more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together.' Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, 'Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back.' But the master replied, 'You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvest crops I didn't plant and gather crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it.' Then he ordered, 'Take the money from the servant and give it to the one who's with the 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, oh Lord, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" Oh Lord. So, so from reading the rest of that parable, we see where the servant that didn't invest that 1 crop, they didn't use what they were given to the best of their abilities. And, they just put it back in the earth. And the servant was just like, the master was like, you could at least put it in the bank and he would have got something from it. But you see that he was punished because he didn't use what he had wisely.
Mm-hmm.
So it just pretty much raises a question, like, was there ever a time that you were blessed with something and you ruined the blessing?
I don't think I've necessarily been blessed with something and ruined the blessing. Thank God. But what I can say is God did wait until he knew, well, what I'll say is, God is very sovereign, as y'all know. And so I didn't get the vision of the podcast until I could process it and it would actually be fulfilled, If he would have gave me the vision of the podcast anytime sooner, it definitely would have been extremely forgotten about because that was the last thing on my mind. I know prior to me actually getting sick, I think it had been probably 6 months since I had been to church. So what would it look like if he to give me a vision and I'm on Bourbon Street on Sunday morning, So I definitely think that he did wait until I could mentally and emotionally and spiritually handle the podcast. So I will say that once God saw like how consistent I was and how determined I was to get into his word without anybody else holding me accountable, that's when he laid it on my heart to create the podcast, because he knew what I could handle, you know. So I definitely believe in God will see what you do with a little to decide if he wants to give you even more. So yeah.
I'm like with Shay though. Like I can't think of a time that I've ruined a blessing, but I would call it like a procrastination of time. And it kind of brings up the point of like we brought up in another episode part of where, you know, Dr. Pastor V was like, you know, if there's a time that, you know, God had told you to do something, go back to that time. And I was just like, oh, shoot, I did forget to do that. You know, I ain't forget, but I just ain't do it. But in that prayer time and just go ahead and do what he had told me to do, even in that time, then, well, after that time, I was able to, you know, get a more of a connection with God. And also I saw the increase in my life. Like I was able to, you know, he was able to give me more and to trust me with more. And even in my studying, I was able to grow through my studying and like the study tips and stuff like that. So yeah, I would use that as an example.
That is definitely true what you said, Ashley, because like, for instance, like if I'm doing something I know I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm not, well, what I'll say is if I'm doing something that I know that I'm not supposed to be doing, then I will guilt trip myself into like not reading my Bible. And then, you know, when you don't read your Bible, I don't get anything from him, you know, and then I can't think of content for us. And then, you know, it's just kind of like a,
Domino effect.
yeah, like a domino effect.
Yeah, I feel like I would need more time for this question. I can't think of a specific time where I ruined my lesson. I have nothing.
That's good. Like none of us have ever like ruined a car, you know, why a car got taken from us or apartment. I mean, because some people have definitely taken. If you guys have ruined a blessing, comment down below and let us know. But I want to go ahead and move into something that I thought of when I was reading the parable about the guy who only got one silver coin. So I was like, why didn't this guy go out and try? You know, he just automatically buried what he was given. He didn't even try. So I was like, why didn't he try? And that's in 24, where it says, then the man who had received one bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. So he tells me he was afraid. He let fear get into his way of actually trying to do something with what he was given. So I wanted to share an experience that I let fear get into my way of, you know, where I could be at. And it goes back to what Casey said earlier, to where he said, I wrote it down because I liked it. He said, making you behind on your purpose. So my story talks about, we're going to go back to my college days and we're going to talk about my second and fourth major. So as I told y'all my timeline, I did TV and film. And I loved it. And y'all probably know that because I like to film and I like to edit. And that was the reason why I chose it. Because biology was my first major. And I was like, I want to do something in my life that I enjoy and make money from. So I was like, I'm going to do TV and film. And I loved doing that. But it was in one of my classes, they talked about how most of the jobs were in California. And I was like, oh, who finna move to California? Not me. I need to find something more stable because I don't have time to go all the way across the country away from what I know. And I literally probably that next day changed my major to social work because in my mind that was more stable. I could find jobs on Indeed at that time with, social work, and I went and changed it. So that was definitely a time that I let fear get in my way because I was fearful to move so far away and be so far away. And I let it get in my way of doing something that I could have loved. I'm doing my purpose now, but who knows? I may have been able to do it quicker with having a job on a TV show and been able to, I could have pitched Obedience Podcast as a TV show by now, but everything works for a reason. But that was a time that I let fear get into play. So what about you guys? Have you ever had moments where you let fear get in your way?
Yeah. I kind of discovered this in therapy. Like it was the fear of failing to be successful. Like I know it doesn't make sense. Fear doesn't make sense, whatever. But it was, for me, it was just like, I know that I had to fail at some things in order to be successful. And I took that in and I thought about it. Okay, even in those failing moments, it doesn't have to be 100% failure. I think you can also have some success in failing but the success comes from when you're taking those moments and you're learning from those moments. So, and I always have a what if spirit, like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And I always overthink myself, always overthink. And I was just like, dang, that means I don't have any faith in it. And the root cause of it was like me not really praying for it. Like I was trying to do things out of my own will and my own self and not really trusting God. But before that, and that was before the time of that the Study With Me video from Matthew 6:33. So if you haven't watched, go ahead and go back and watch that. So.
You better plug that video.
Plug it in.
So for me, I don't have an instance where I feel like fear got in the way of me being successful. I'm still pretty young, so it's still time. But I would say it could have. Like when I was younger, when I was in high school, when deciding what career I wanted to pursue, I always knew I wanted to pursue something in the medical field. However, there would be times where I would think, oh no, I can't do that. It's gonna take too long. The time constraint. I feel like we do that a lot. We look at how far something is away and we say, no, I'm not gonna do that. So I would look at stuff and say, that's gonna take 8 years, 12 years, 10 years. I'm gonna be this old by the time I finish. But as I got older, I feel like I learned that regardless, that time is gonna pass by. And you don't have to look at it to where you're always looking forward to say, this is where I'm gonna be. You have to focus on where you are at that time, and you still can enjoy life and have experiences while you're going through all of that. So even though you're in 8 years of school or whatever, it's not like that time of your life is going to be a big black box and you're not going to be doing anything. You still can go places. You still can have fun. So it's not like you're missing out on life. Because at the end of the day, I'm still gonna, I just turned 30 like a couple days ago. You're still gonna turn 30, whether you're working at Walmart, whether you work, wherever you're working, or whether you're in school, whatever you're doing, that time is still gonna pass. So you may as well do something that you're going to enjoy and not limit yourself based off of the perceived time restriction that you think you have. Because I have 2 kids. I was able to have one of my kids while I was in school. I was able to still do all the things that I needed to do, all the things that I wanted to do. So I think that just came with time. And so I always try to tell kids that's graduating from high school that, like, don't think about that. Like, before you know it, that time's gonna fly by, and you're not gonna even realize it. So don't look at the time when you're trying to determine what you want to do with your life.
That's good, because I mean, I've been struggling with that myself. Like, a lot of people, especially with women, it's like your life doesn't start until you start a family. And you know, as you're getting older, you're like, okay, this is taking longer than I thought it was gonna take. We're very close to 30. Can we get this show on the road? But I can't say that I'm doing it. I have to work on it. But just knowing that life has to go on whether that happens or not. And so don't think of it as, oh, my life hasn't started yet. You know, that part of your life hasn't started yet, but your life has started. You have other things in life. So you have to make your own babies. You know, the podcast is my baby.
And I think that's important. That was actually one of the ways I overcame it. It was, I figured out exactly what it was I wanted to do. And once I did that, it's like, okay, well, I want to do this, and this is the time it's going to take. So that's what I'm going to do. So that kind of helped me focus and get things into perspective, because I had a goal and this is how I'm going to meet it. So, and all that other stuff kind of just went out of my head. I feel like I had that conversation with you multiple times, Shay, trying to say, like, okay, don't worry about how, because you say, oh, that's too long, that's too much school. It's like, no. I even have that conversation with my assistants to this day. I've talked 2 of them into going back to school for dental hygiene, because I'm always telling them, look, the time is gonna go by. Just do it. And I'm happy that 2 of them decided that that's what they're gonna do.
Look at you moving people into better lives. So we also post this question on our Facebook page. Remember that you guys can follow us on Facebook at Obedience Pod. And you can also find us on all of our other social medias, which should be on the screen right now, at Obedience Podcast. And if you have any prayer requests, you may send those to obediencepodcast@gmail.com. I think I covered everything. But if you do follow us on Facebook, every now and again, we will ask questions to interact with you guys. And we ask the question, have you ever let fear get in the way of you being successful? So I want to read some comments that we have. So Zoe Elizabeth Dinkins says, lots of faith and pushing myself. Had to constantly remind myself that it is possible and that I can do it. Silence the voice of naysayers. Raquel Steele Embry says, I used to, but not anymore. It's natural to fear something you don't understand. Now I believe in it's either going to work or not. If it doesn't, there is a lesson to be learned on it. And if it does, I push to do my very best. I truly believe fear and faith can't exist in the same space. It's good. Demetria Coleman, friend of the show. If you haven't checked out Friendship Series, be sure to click that card right up there. But she said, I did. Well, I used to. I had to start telling myself that I'm not only stopping me, I'm stopping others from hearing a story that may help them. If I don't do what it takes to be successful, I'm letting my future kids down, my future husband, etc. That's good. Stopping others. And then last, Miss K. Jordan says, I have, but it took just stepping out on faith for me to prevail. Me launching my business 3 years ago was one of the scariest things I've done, but I knew it was from God and for a purpose that I do this. I don't regret it at all. I still have a little fear at times, but I say a prayer and trust God and move forward. Perfect. I want to thank you all for commenting. Everyone commented something great, and we really appreciate you guys giving us feedback. All right, so now before we wrap up this series, we did want to give you guys some tips on time management, because we've talked so much about it, but how do you make sure you're good at time management? So you ladies have any tips to share with the viewers?
Give yourself some grace. Give yourself the downtime that we talked about. It's not, you have to give yourself some downtime. We talked about we were all type A people when it comes to work. But, you know, we do deserve the downtime and just to unwind and relax sometimes. So I think that's one important tip.
Of course, checklists. It's always a good thing. Make lists. Check the things off your list. And that's a good way to stay organized and stay on task. Also, we talked a lot about fear. Don't think that fear is a bad thing. Just don't let it cripple you, because that fear just means that you're dreaming big, and they say if your dream doesn't scare you, that it's not big enough. So know that fear is normal. You just have to do whatever it takes to overcome that, because on the other side is something greater.
Yeah. They said whenever you're getting ready to grow, you're gonna have some type of fear. And some people in their life, they're like, I'm feeling real stagnant because I don't feel fearful of anything. I'm getting comfortable in life. Do you ever really want to get comfortable in life? Do you ever want to stop growing? Ask yourself that. If you let fear get in your way, you're gonna stop growing at some point in your life. So that is good. I do have a couple. So the first one I have is, I mentioned this before, just don't overwhelm yourself. I am very guilty of overwhelming myself, and I talked about that when I mentioned about the blog, but only have enough, only accept enough of responsibility or enough tasks that you know that you can take. Learn how to say no. I'm still working on that. So create some peace in your life. Like I told y'all, I make sure I try to keep my room clean every Sunday, because if you don't, you get kind of overwhelmed. It's easy to get overwhelmed, and it's easy to like let your time get away from you. You're already living in chaos, so you're gonna let the things you have to do be chaotic. And then the last thing that I have down is routines. Establish a routine, so therefore you already have like this set standard of procedures that you already take that allows you to be good on time. Like for instance, I know at work, one of my supervisors, she talked about how she does block scheduling, and you know, whatever is within those blocks may change, but she already has a time slotted for each individual thing. And that really helped me with work. It was like, okay, from 8 to 9, I'm going to work on answering these emails. So therefore, I start my day with 30 emails. You know, by the end of the day, with my job, you could quickly go up to 60. But, you know, if I spend an hour in the morning handling these 30 emails, I'm not starting my day with 30 emails, you know? So create routines, and that's something that I'm still working on too. That's why it was kind of hard for me to give you guys tips, because I feel like time management is definitely something that I'm struggling with. Not not doing the work, it's just managing the work. And what I mean by that is I will stay up to 12 o'clock working on the podcast. I know last night I was working on business cards at 1 o'clock in the morning. I need to work on cutting off my, I guess, creativity or productivity, because I have a hard time. You know, if I'm in it, if I'm zoned in it, I'm gonna keep working on it. And because I'm type A, because if I go to sleep, I'm gonna dream about it, or I'm gonna keep thinking about it. So I just need to get a handle on sticking to my routine, because I've created routines. I just have a hard time sticking to it. You know, like I'm type A even at work. It's like it may be 9 o'clock, but I still got 10 more emails. I want to finish those 10 emails, you know? So routines is my tip.
I think that's a part of being a creative though, Shay. I think sometimes it's hard when you are creative to stick to those routines, because you have to, when the idea comes, you have to put it down. You know what I'm saying? If you were to go to sleep, you may forget. So I think just like Ashley said, you have to be a little lenient with yourself when it comes to certain things, because you are creative and you have to make the best use of your time. And if you're feeling creative in that moment, that's when you have to do it. So
Yeah, that's true.
You got to be flexible with your schedule as well.
I just can't do it every single night because I got a 9-to-5 job.
Balance. It's all about balance. That's another thing too. Another tip could be, especially with moms, you have to. I think I found myself being a little bit more organized with my kids, because you have to make use of all your time. Even one tip for mothers would be to wake up earlier and use that time when they're asleep in order to get a few things done. So as your life changes, you kind of have to tweak how you're organizing things.
I definitely think routines would be very vital whenever I become a mother, because I know how important like that personal time is, and y'all need to be to bed by 8 o'clock because I don't go to sleep till 11, so that's a bunch of time by myself.
Right. I mean, it seems like a bunch, but blink and it's over. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a routine, like y'all said, because like even when, like Jamila said, things change and things shift, like especially with motherhood, like even if you still have that routine, then you can kind of tweak some things in that routine to like, have time slides for, okay, this is your bedtime, this is my time for myself, or if you're in school or whatever. So even if you start off with a routine before motherhood or before things change or different events change in your life, then that gives you, I think, a better foundation, I guess.
I think we gave them some good tips.
I think you should put that in a list format and put it on the screen.
I'll definitely put that on the screen for you guys. Y'all screenshot it, write it down, whatever you need to do. But yeah, Ashley, you want to add anything?
No, I think we did a great job at covering this preparation series, and we showed them how to prepare and how to execute, how to incubate, and everything else.
All right, it's all up to you guys now. You want to add anything, Jamila?
No, I don't have anything unless you have, if you have specific questions, put them in the comments. Shell, let me know, because I'm horrible at Facebook, and then I'll try to.
We really wanted Jamila on an episode because she was very driven. Like, if you guys don't know, she is a dentist, and it takes a long time to become a dentist, and she had to get a lot of time management skills, a lot of preparation skills. So we thought that she would be a great addition to this series to help you guys out. So if there's anybody out there that's going through a similar experience, or anybody that's wanting to go get their master's or their or any other professional school, just feel free to reach out. I'm sure she can give you guys tips. You saw her that she was being Ayala and helping her dental associate. So I mean, she can encourage you guys. So definitely reach out to us and we can get her the information so she can respond back to you guys. But Jamila, we do want to thank you for coming on. We know this is not something that you just would naturally do, so we really do appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. You already know that this is not what I necessarily like to do. Just I like one-on-one, but this is fine. It actually wasn't bad at all, and it was fun.
Everybody always says that. Everybody. But I have been blessed myself through this series. I want to thank our first guest, Christina Kidd, for coming up with this series. It has really helped me out. Even though, I'm part of the people giving y'all guys tips, it has really helped me out. So I want to thank you again, Christina, for coming on and sharing everything with us. But during this series, we gave you guys 2 parables to apply to your life. We gave you the parable of the 10 bridesmaids, which showed you guys why you should prepare. And then through that, we gave you tips on how to prepare. And we talked about preparation in detail. And then from there, we did the parable of the loan money. And, why we can't waste our time with what we prepared for. So I think both of those parables are definitely vital in everyone's life, no matter what stage you are in your life, to take those two parables and apply it to your life. So, when you're going through something where you have to prepare or have time management, definitely go back and watch all 4 parts of this series. In the first one, we talked about how you prepare. In the second one, we talked about that incubation phase. The third one, we talked about how to actually execute what you incubated. And then in this fourth one, we talked about evaluating what you've done and what you have, and evaluating yourself, like Ashley mentioned. So thank you guys so much for tuning into all 4 parts of this series. It has been a wonderful experience. And we hope that it blessed you as much as it blessed us. You want to add anything, Ashley?
Girl, you did a good job in doing that little speech there.
Yeah, since Ashley doesn't have anything, we'll go ahead and go. And you guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely subscribe if you are new here. Comment down below, like we said, and share this video to show us that you care. And what else do I want to add? Oh, look forward to our next episode. We're gonna be giving you guys the trailer for our next series, which we are very excited about. Be sure to comment on that one and tell us how excited you are about it. But as always, be obedient. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.